Hey everybody, how's it going? It's Shannon from Good Fruit. Welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about shifting and what it really truly means to shift and why it's important that we do shift. One of the first things that Jesus has made me aware of is that I continue to go by my own understanding of how it is that I think things are going to play out based on what God has said. My own understanding of what God is actually doing every single day as I walk out and step out into the world, being directed by Him. That first shift is a requirement to move out of our own understanding and move into the understanding of what God is actually doing, God's mindset, to think inside of the thoughts of God Himself. As we're reunited with Jesus through the Holy Spirit, we actually share what is called the Christ consciousness. So this shifting requires for me to stop looking at the world so focused on what it is that He's doing in my life, but more so what it is that He's doing through my life for those around me. My understanding most of the time is that I need God to do certain things for me. And I would say that's probably a lot of you listening, is that this walk with Jesus is about transforming just me. Yes, He's doing that in the process of everything, but why? Why has He gone out of His way to ask me to do certain things? Right now, I'm currently inside of the legal system and I'm walking that out with Jesus. I have no understanding of what it is that I'm doing other than the very few small things that I'm starting to learn in the filing and in the court case procedure stuff. But what I do know is that God had me start procedures and had me start processes. And all along the way, I've encountered different people that He has then had the opportunity to encounter through my experience. Every single time I've went down to do something in the courthouse, there is somebody in my Uber, whether it's the driver or a passenger, that God has had a message for. And then filing in the filing system, that God has encountered them during the process. For Him to be able to encounter them and answer questions, whatever those were, that they had been asking for and looking for guidance on. And then others that He was asking to bless me along the process. My understanding is that when I walk down this path with Him, that I currently would be at a different position that I'm in right now. I am not yielding the result that God had desired for me. Does that mean that I will not achieve that result? No, because even though this path has only led me so far, and some people have said no, and there was missteps along the way for those around me and choices, I am in a position right now where I have to shift my understanding of what God had told me which would happen, which was that this would yield an outcome that was favorable. And it was supposed to yield that outcome already, but it has not. Now there's a next step to the process because certain people didn't do the things that God had asked them to do. Is that upsetting? Of course it's upsetting. This first step to shifting requires that I understand that the things that I do with God are not necessarily just about me. They are for other people, and that there's also other people involved with the things that God needs to orchestrate from heaven to here on earth. So stepping out of my understanding and shifting out of my own understanding into God's understanding is a really important shift that we're all going to be required to take as we walk this path with Jesus, because my understanding is that everything that I'm doing has a certain action, and I say yes or no, and that certain things are going to happen. And to be honest with you, most of these things are not certain, which goes into the next thing that we have to shift out of, the expectation of the results based on what God has said. We can't have expectation. Do we know and we understand that the promises of God are possible? 100%. The promises of God are based on obedience, and they're not based just on our obedience. It's everyone's. In order for there to be the best likely outcome that God has said to us that he desired, it requires a lot of people's free will and them all saying yes to what God had planned. So we have to go back to that understanding and that shift of understanding, because when God says something, I really truly sometimes go, this is an absolute. And he's like, no. This is what I desire to happen. This is what I'm orchestrating to happen. But there is still everyone's free will to play their part in this track of whatever it is that he says is going to yield. It requires a lot of obedience from everyone. And when not everybody is in obedience to God's will, there is a lot of casualties spiritually. There's a lot of casualties because of the things not going the way God planned it. Like myself, there's more time that's added to the calendar of what I'm in court for. And now there's more cost associated. And then on top of all of that, there's more stress. I'm already in the deep end as is, and now I'm getting in there even deeper. But this requires that other additional shift, that shift in my response. The things that I'm talking about, this has been going on since May. I've been in a judicial process since May that could have been dealt with and ended by June 13th, I believe, to be exact, right? There was something that could have been done by June 13th, and now we're here, and it's another Tuesday in the beginning of December, and the year is about to be over. And from what I'm really starting to understand is, this is crazier to think about, is that this appeals process to this judicial process could take another year. So this other shifting that we are required to do with God involves our response. What do I do with this? Well, one, I got to bring it back to the Lord and then find out what happened to just get a better understanding of what changed. Not because I'm upset with him, although for a minute there I walked out of the court and I kind of laughed because I felt like this ear of relief being over. But then at the same time, I'm like, this is not over the way I want it to be over. And then, he's like, well, I need you to appeal. I need you to do this. I need you to do that. I need you to gain a different understanding. I need you to have a different expectation. And then I'm like, kicking and screaming. And I've been pissed off like for 4 days now. And when realistically, I really should just change my response. I need to shift. Walking with God is a constant shifting, like posture. We have to be wearing the right shoes that are reactive to the nature of the ground in which we stand on here is always shifting. We do have a very good key to this shifting. We do stand on the rock, that is Jesus Christ, and we have access to all of the plan and all of the understanding, right? But again, it brings us back to the beginning of shifting that understanding from our expectations, which we should not have any, other than that God will direct us and that he'll never lead us astray and he'll always pick us up and just bring it back to him. Find out where it is that we need to start back over again. And is it really starting back over? No, it's not. Because as I bring it back before the Lord, there were certain things that he orchestrated during this process. Now, in the appeal process, I realize that these are key attributes to kind of just setting up the appeals process. And all of that, I had no understanding until now. So that shifting is just becoming an awareness that God always has a plan. There's plan A and plan B, C, D, E, F, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 18, 20, and I can keep going on and on and on and on. There's a fail-safe for everything. And if we go back to the beginning of all of creation, we know that number one fail-safe was always Jesus. And that's where we stand as well. He is the fail-safe. Because when we can't figure it out, even with his direction, we just go back to him and he goes, oh, thank you. Thank you for stopping trying to do that. Because remember, I am answer number one. I am the way, the truth, and the life. And there is no other way to anywhere else you want to go, like other than through Jesus. At least not the right way. So shifting is required for transformation. And I got to tell you that this is number 7 times recording this, because it kept getting to a certain place in this message and I was missing the piece. And he waited for me to shift my response to this message and putting it out there. And he was like, that is the last part of my lesson for you, is that I need you to shift your response when things don't go the way that I said would happen. I've walked the last year and a half with Jesus, and it's kind of crazy that it's taken me this long to realize this part of this message, because I've watched so many people that he said would do so many things that are so important to the kingdom of heaven, and they shifted their response to him. And there's so much casualty I watch because of it. And all that I can do is shift my response to, Jesus, did I do everything that you asked? And more often than not, he says yes, and sometimes I make mistakes, but he uses all of it. And that response that I have is, as long as I'm obedient and I'm doing what it is that I say, I can't lose with him. And it just changes the game plan and it changes the walk. It might make the walk harder. And I'm going to tell you right now, might be the one few Christian on this platform that's telling you otherwise. It's not easy. It's not easy to change and shift and make these adjustments. And most of the time, I got to tell you, if God's asking you to do something, a lot of people are saying no to it. I see it on a daily basis. And even that, I got to shift my response to, because I'm like, what the hell? And then he's just like, you were once them. You were once telling me no, even though you didn't hear me. I was always there planting the right decisions. It took me a while to follow them, but here we are. So in this transformation process, and this lesson that I learned very hard for the last year and a half, is that I can't have any expectations, even when God's involved. And I just need to change my constant posture of response to just love and understanding. And that goes with God too, that when he says something will happen and it doesn't quite happen the way that he planned, that it's not his fault and that it's no one's fault and that there's just another path and he 100% has another plan. So just be prepared to shift. And in that process of transformation and that shifting, just be prepared that it just might not be comfortable. But in that uncomfortability, that response of feeling afraid and nervous and scared and stressed, you could just give it to him. And he's going to teach you how to have the best response, which is just to lean on him. Don't go by your own understanding and just put it all on him, really. So until next time, be good fruit.